Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronica. Thank you so much for clicking the link to watch this video. Without further ado, let's get started with today's video. Alright you guys, so for today's video, as you guys can tell by the title, I'm going to be talking about one of the most requested things that you guys have been commenting on my video lately, which is MSC, Medical Service Corps Officer, applications. A lot of you asked me what degrees are required to get into the Medical Service Corps, so I don't have I couldn't find that list on the website, and the website is only for, I believe, for actual, if you're already in the Air Force, then you can get to the website. Otherwise, you can't get onto it on a regular network, if that makes sense. The government has a completely separate network that we use, and I can't get to it on my regular Wi-Fi, so I had to print this off from work. So I couldn't find exactly what degrees, but I remember from reading, I think I printed off, there was another paper I could have printed off and I didn't, so I think that's where it is. But I remember it's like economics, healthcare administration, obviously, and like a business degree are all the three. I might be missing one. I'm not sure if marketing is. But essentially, as long as you have business classes in your degree, there's a good chance that you're going to qualify. Now, every time someone comments on my video and they say, hey, I have a degree in art, but I took 6 business classes, do I qualify? That's something that you really are going to have to talk to your recruiter about, because there's just certain things that I just don't know. There's always a waiver. Again, I am not the person who can tell you and look at all of your degrees and say, yeah, you qualify. You know what I mean? I don't want to give you guys false hope. So again, talk to your recruiter if you have anything other than the degrees that I just previously mentioned. But like I said, there's always usually a waiver for something, so don't give up hope. Or you can, if you got your bachelor's in art, get your master's in business and then apply. That brings me to my next point is you cannot apply, especially as a civilian. I'm not talking about enlisted to officers. I'm talking about you are working outside as a civilian, meaning you have no military affiliation and you're trying to apply. The only way they'll let you do that is once you finish your degree. So if you're in your bachelor's degree right now and you haven't finished, you gotta wait till you finish. If you're in your master's degree and that's the only thing that qualifies you for this program in the career field, then you have to wait till you're finished. Of course, start talking to a recruiter as early as possible. I highly recommend that. That way you know your requirements, you know the guidelines, you're in touch with someone. It gives you time to have questions, or if something comes up, it's just a good idea to be in touch with them as early as possible. I think I reached out to a recruiter my junior year of college. So obviously I couldn't apply. My recruiter was very adamant about that. Obviously I wouldn't have qualified anyways, but you just never know. So I'm going to go through this paper. If you guys hear me rambling, it's because I printed it off. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything, and basically I'm talking about the eligibility requirements for this, and then we'll move on to the interview portion. First things first, you need to be less than 40 years old. And I hate to say it, but it just is what it is. So if you are currently enlisted and you're trying to become a Medical Service Corps officer, because I know there's a good chunk of you guys out there who ask me questions, you have to have less than 8 years of service by the 31st. So if I'm trying to apply this year or next year, early next year, let's say oh, my date of rank is 30 December, that'll hit my 8-year mark, you might want to ask your recruiter and see if you can get a waiver for even 1 day. Even if you're 1 day over, it has to be less than 8 years. And I'm here, I want to be legit with you guys and honest with you guys. I'm trying to keep it real. I wish I had this advice and this knowledge before I joined. There's nothing on the internet about it. It was like a secret society. So I'm trying to share this with you guys. GRE, GMAT score, those are both required. I had a lot of people ask me, hey, my master's program doesn't require a GRE and I'm already finished it. That's fine, but you still got to take the GRE. It's just something they use to measure against, and so you just have to take it. Minimum GRE score is a 292 and minimum GMAT scores of 500. I will tell you that my scores for my GRE were good, but they weren't Like, there are some people who were just killing it, like really good scores, and against them my scores were pretty low. Like, I didn't have low scores, but against the tier that I applied and got in with, my scores were kind of low, but I still got in. So I say that to say, shoot for at least the minimum, but if you're right below the minimum, still apply anyways. And I know from when I went in, and I'm pretty sure this is still standard, you only get 2 tries to apply as an MSC. So if you don't make it your first time, that's okay. And then you have a second time. After your second look, that's it. You've maxed out your looks. But don't be nervous because of the standards they set. Of course, we want you to have those standards. That's why the Air Force and the MSC Corps assign them. But don't let that deter you from applying. You know, you could be a really good candidate and maybe standardized test taking isn't your thing. Standardized test taking is not my thing, but I have a really fast aptitude. I know I took an aptitude test and it was pretty high, and I'm really good at like typical skills testing, but standardized testing for me is like, ugh. So I get it. I totally get it with you. But just make sure you guys are using your 2 choices wisely. So if you are enlisted, you have to be released from your AFSC. You guys know if you're enlisted and you know what that means. I'm not going to go into that, but just make sure you're released, because I've seen a lot of people not get released, even officers who have contacted me and they want to transfer, they want to cross-train and transfer over, and their career field did not release them. So that's another thing. If you're already active duty, make sure you're talking to your career manager to let them know, like, hey, this is what I'm envisioning. Is there any chance? And then obviously a qualifying degree, like I said from earlier, contact your recruiter. I don't want to tell you guys false information. I do know the business degrees qualify. So if you have a business degree, more than likely you're good. So the biggest thing is too, a lot of people want to know how to apply. So how you apply is, I'm not talking about active duty. If you're active duty, obviously you go through the KX and apply through AFPC. I'm not going to explain that because active duty knows exactly what I'm talking about. For majority of you guys are civilian, you're going to contact your recruiter. You have to have a recruiter before you can apply. They will not let you apply without a health professionals recruiter. So go on airforce.com, you'll fill out the recruiting information, you'll put down that you want to do healthcare administration. They'll give you a health professions recruiter. Keep in mind, I have shared this before, health professions recruiters are not always the best, especially when it comes to MSC stuff. Seems like they're just the 2 that I ran into, just so let me see, think of what else. Okay, so a lot of people wanted to know the types of MSC positions, so I'm just going to go over these. I've already explained this in a whole nother video, so I'm just going to run through these really quick. But an MSC officer, obviously, when you first come in, you're going to be doing one of the 6 functions. So that's resource and personnel management. So obviously working with money, medical information management. So that's systems, working with our network, group practice management. So that's working with the providers and the nurses to make sure we have great access to care. Medical readiness, that's working with the actual staff of the med group who you want to deploy and make sure we're always trained and ready to go. And it's essentially important, especially in this time, because our readiness is ramping up a little bit more. Medical logistics, so that's making sure we have the supplies, the lights, the building works. It's a lot of, I feel like logistics is a lot of like supply chain management, which is essentially what it is. So it's actually really good. And then health plans management is essentially what our TOPA section is. So TRICARE operation, patient administration section. So basically it's about the insurance, and if you ever worked in a patient admin section, this is it. So those sections that I just mentioned, Ideally, when you first come in, they would like for you to rotate through all of them. You stay in the position from 1 to 2.5 years, depending on your leadership and your functional manager, or sorry, your functional advisor, which is the senior most ranking MSC. Sometimes it can be delegated down, especially if your senior most MSC is the group commander. Essentially, there's other stuff that takes you out of the clinic too. So currently, I have already completed medical logistics and medical readiness. As you guys know, that was my first assignment when I got to Great Falls, and I was dual-hatted. So I had 2 sections at one time. That you'll see that a lot, especially with manning issues and stuff like that. Now I am the executive officer, which is a pretty big deal. Basically, I work for the group commander directly right now, and I'm pretty much his assistant. So the other 2 positions that you can do as an MSC, these will be once you hit major, lieutenant colonel, and colonel, also known as the field grade officer tier. So commander, obviously, CEO. Commander is usually a lieutenant colonel or colonel. Medical administrator, SGA, so that is the Surgeon General Administrator. So essentially, you're pretty much like the COO. So a lot of these jobs, you do a little bit more than what you would have in the civilian life. If you don't know, MSCs promote pretty fast. We're one of the fastest, or I won't say fastest, we're one of the more fast track promoting career fields out there. So you're pretty much good to a certain rank unless you get in trouble, or you're just average, or you're just not doing well, which most of the time if you try, you're pretty good. Another thing that I forgot to mention too, after you apply as a civilian, you will have to go to MEPS as an officer. I will do a separate MEPS as an officer video because I don't want to make this video too long. But yes, you do have to go to MEPS, and there's a lot of paperwork and forms that you have to fill out. I'm not going to disclose the information of those forms just because, again, I'll save that for another video, and 2, some of that stuff I feel like is classified. It's not really classified information, but it's not a need to know unless you're in or applying. So I don't want to just put all of that stuff out there. So I had a lot of you guys ask me about the interview questions, and there was 3 people who emailed me and messaged me the exact interview questions, and I know because I applied and those were some of the questions. So I'm sure they've switched it up by now, but it was like some of the questions that I answered. So just talking with some people, I'm not allowed to give you guys tips on how to answer those exact questions, but I can give you guys tips on how to do well on your interview. And so I am not going to answer those exact questions again, but obviously when you go to have your interview after you apply, you'll have to have an interview with an 06 Medical Service Corps officer. Usually, almost always, it's always a commander of a medical group, so that can be quite intimidating. I remember my interview, and I think I said something so cheesy like, just hire me or something crazy. I mean, it worked out because I said I did really good in my interview, but just make sure you have a good personality, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but what I've noticed, especially when people approach me and they want to be MSCs, is the people who have bad attitudes or bad vibes, I don't recommend them. And you can tell too when you're interviewing someone and there's just no, so why do you want to be an MSC? And it's kind of like, I have better stuff to do, but this is the only thing I can find. That might be something that you don't want to say in an interview. So kind of prepare yourself. And people always, almost in every job that I've had, they always ask me, why do you want this position? So just ask yourself, why do you want this position? Write it down, practice it if that's what you need to do. I'm the type of person where I kind of free flow, and interviews are my strongest points. So for me, I'm really good at thinking quick on my feet. If that's not you, no shame in the game, write it down, practice. Your appearance. So even though you're a civilian and you're applying for this military job, you don't want to show up with nose rings, piercings, tattoos on your face, tattoos everywhere. Come like you want the job that you're applying for. Like you want to be the CEO of, if there was a military headquarter medical group, you would want the CEO job. Dress like the career that you want. Okay, dress over and beyond that. So I wore some slacks, a nice conservative top. I had a cardigan over. I wasn't showing too much skin. My hair was pulled back. clear face. I think I did have on some makeup, but nothing too crazy, just something to make me look awake. Don't show up in jeans, don't show up in scrubs, don't show up smelly. That's not good. Don't show up with dirty hair, dirty skin like you just woke up. Like, don't show up like that, because dress and appearance is everything to a military person. If you do not look good in how you dress right now when you show up to the interview, ain't no way you putting on the U.S. Air Force military uniform. Just not gonna happen. There will be probably a lot of deep questions. I know there's a standard form that the commander usually, when they're interviewing, asks. Again, I'm not going to go over the exact questions, but just prepare yourself and have a family member or a friend ask you questions about why you want to be there. I did list the functions that MSCs go through, so you know, rewind my videos back and listen to those functions, listen to how I explain it. That might be something they ask, like, oh, okay, that was great. What do you know about the MSC world? There was no videos for me. There was nothing. So I really didn't know very much about the MSC world. I didn't know the functions or anything. I just kind of said, you know, stuff about healthcare administration stuff. So obviously I still got in, but you know, use your resources. I can't say that enough. Another piece is just be prepared to potentially write something down. I'm not sure if they still have that section anymore. I'm not going to go into further detail, but just be prepared to write, and it could be about anything. So just be prepared for that. The interview process is pretty much fairly straightforward. You fill out a bunch of forms that your recruiter tells you. Once you're done with that, you have your interview, and then you kind of just wait for the board to meet, and then they determine if they want to select you or not, and then you'll find that out. So after you're selected as an MSC, obviously you'll go to COT, and then you'll go to HSA. I already have videos on that, so don't forget to click those if you want to learn more about that. So I will basically, my next videos will be explaining MEPS, other things. If you guys have military request videos, please comment them down below and I'll film more and more videos about it. If you guys have any other questions, comment down below. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button on military videos, because the more thumbs up I get, the more I'm going to keep filming military videos. Otherwise, it's just makeup and fashion. No, I'm kidding. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for rocking with me. Thank you, God, for giving me this platform. I feel like I'm so lucky where I get to share this stuff with my friends and people who really need that help. And I said it before, I so wish there was someone like me who existed when I applied, because I was so lost. I legit was so lost. It was crazy. I wish I was filming back then, but I wish I was filming my military stuff. I kind of kept my military stuff really hush-hush because I did. But now that I'm more open about it, I feel like, man, I should have just filmed. Anyways, I will catch you guys in the next video before I keep talking and rambling on. And I will catch you guys in the next video sometime soon. Oh, I think I spit. Bye!